the quintessential aspect of HR is to be, it's the biggest aspect that we have the biggest influence in our organizations is to be the voice of the company, both in accountability and also in I guess the good and the bad, if you will. A good HR individual, a good HR leader understands that they're not there for the company nor for the employees. They're a mediator. They hold both sides accountable. I've had leaders in the past. I'm not going to mention names, but I'll give you examples. I've had leaders in the past who have tried to manipulate the exempt and not exempt policies to try and make employees work overtime without having to deal with paying them. It happens very often where they start like questioning, well, what are the three parameters? And then you're like, no, this is not really like, you can't do that. Having an HR leader that is willing to step up and be like, no, sir, this is not the right thing is essential. Like we have to think about the bigger picture of things. A company, an organization is meant to be a body that works together for the benefit of all.
Luis, I'm so excited to get to chat with you today.
Me
And I
too.
know our audience is going to be so appreciative of everything you have to share because not only have we been friends online for a while now, I want to say maybe it's been a year or so. We're also MBA colleagues too. We're getting, well, actually, by the time this airs, we've already received our diplomas and graduated with our MBA from Eastern University.
I am so ready. I am so ready to be done with that. You have no idea. I mean, I'm sure you have an idea, but I'm so ready.
It's one of those for me, it's one of those experiences, like, I love learning, and I love being able to apply it. Everything that I learn that I can take and apply to work and even just my relationships or my projects like this, has been so rewarding, and I've been so grateful for it. I've been grateful to be a part of the program and be one of the graduate assistants too and help students and professors. But at the same time, because you're probably like me, I'm a lifelong learner and I love to study new things and keep piquing that curiosity. But there is the exhausting side of it.
Especially when like it's great. I think, like everything in life, there's always yings and yangs and whatnot. When you're young, you don't have the experience, but you're getting all the theory when you go to school. So you have plenty of time. You don't really have, for the most part, you don't have to worry about other things. On the flip side, like at least professionals like us, we got plenty of experience, but we're currently working busy, being, trying to be responsible with our jobs and our families and whatnot while handling the load of like school and whatnot. So it could be a significant strain at times.
Oh yeah, it's really important for me that there's that balance. I think of it like an ebb and a flow, and sometimes one part of your life needs a little bit more investment than the other, and navigating that has been so important. And kind of along the lines of what you're saying, as we get older, I don't necessarily believe that the studying gets harder, but the amount of energy that it takes.
Yes.
A lot of late nights and long weekends and
Coming back from work and just sitting there completely drained from a long day and just looking at I don't know, a paper or an exam and just like, nah, that just, yeah, I'm looking to finish I'm very excited to finish because I'm looking forward to trying my hand at law school. I want to get my JD. So I keep talking like this, like I'm like, this is so much, but I can't stop pursuing. Like I want to keep learning, and I'm a big constitutionalist. I love the law. I love its principles and the history of the law. I figured it was time. I'm in a good spot. I can pursue that. So I'm saying all this stuff while at the same time I can't get enough of it, to be honest.
I love that for you. Well, that's why I think we're kindred spirits too. And I'm not after a law degree, but I know that for both of us, there's another degree or another pursuit in the making. And that is so exciting. That's really awesome.
Resiliency. You have to keep going. You have to. It's something that I got from the military too. I joined the military very young. I come from a family of military people. My mom and dad were both military. So naturally, they did not want me to join the military. They were like, no, you're going to go to college. You're going to go figure it out. I did. I tried to go to college for engineering when I was a kid back in Puerto Rico. Soon found out that it was super expensive. And then I ended up joining the military. But at the time, I was very minimalist. I just wanted to get things done because I was told, hey, this is what you need to do. You need to go get a degree, then get married, and then have kids, or whatever the case may be. But then I joined the military and I saw my brothers and sisters be like these leaders, this example of resiliency, of like overcoming challenges, deployments, last minute deployments where you're like just told like a week before, hey, you have to go to Iraq or something like that. And overcoming all those challenges, family, friends, making sure all their accounts, everything is in place. The military puts a lot of pressure on its enlisted and officers, and service members in general. So that type of pressure and seeing how those leaders navigated that kind of taught me that, that there's no obstacle that we can't overcome as long as we keep trying with honest thought and honest intentions.
That's a great mindset. And I can see that in how you're leading your life and how you interact with others in the school space, but then, on the personal side too. If I appreciate our time getting to kind of interact and know each other, which has been so cool. And I wanted to congratulate you on your recent job. You got a new job and now you're in the HR space as well. So it sounds like your background has really led to some wonderful opportunities for additional roles in leadership. And I know we're going to talk a lot about what that space and what your role entails, but I'm curious, was there sort of transition or anything in your studies or in the past couple years that sparked your desire to step into that human resources leadership role?
Yes. So it was kind of like a transition that happened between me being an airman and becoming a staff sergeant. Once I became a sergeant, I had to take care of my troops and like get involved in their development, their training, their safety. I had to make sure that they were safe. They had all the safety equipment they needed to perform whatever mission they were involved in at the time. I found it highly rewarding, but at the time, I also had really good leaders. Like the military has a billion. Everyone's your boss in the military. Every single person, and most of them are not that great. And I don't mean that in a bad way. They're just not interested in you. But then every once in a while, you run into these leaders who are really deeply invested in you. They go out of their way and they I don't know, they teach you the ropes, or they go on the job and teach you how to do things the right way, or they get involved in your life, sort of like watching you or teaching you how to grow and develop. I got lucky. I got very lucky at the time, and I ran into one of them. His name is well, he's a retired lieutenant colonel now. His name is James Regner. He was a pilot in the Air Force, and just so happens that as I was trying to get my undergrad in the military, he became one of my instructors. And we used to get into these conversations about life, and he taught this class called National Terrorism. One nation's hero is another nation's enemy, or something like that. And it was like just debating ideologies, and it was such a learning experience, and it's such a growing and just eye-opening experience that I wanted to pass that on to my troops. I want them to see the world from different lenses. I wanted them to consider other people's perspectives. And it didn't always work out. There were times that people are sometimes reluctant. They just don't care much about your ideologies or whatever the case may be. But some of them do. Some of them are really interested in watching those accept that, just listen and apply that to their lives and watching them succeed. It was very, very rewarding to me. And I just wanted to pursue that feeling. I wanted to continue helping people, setting them up for success is what I sometimes refer to. Watching people just be successful at what they want to be. I wanted to be part of that. So HR was naturally the course I wanted to pursue after the military.
I love that, and I can hear that passion in your voice and how you share that, Luis, and I love that phrase, "set up for success." I use that often too. What does that mean for you if we were to look at it on a next deeper level? How can you help people be set up for success? Are there different elements or aspects to that?
There's a lot of preparation that requires leaders. And I'm talking about this from a leadership standpoint. Due diligence is essential, it's quintessential for us to be able to set others for success. You can't expect success to happen unless you plan for it, unless you strategize for it and you use your lessons learned through life so that you don't make the same mistakes over and over. Um, yeah, it requires a lot of like self analytical thinking, considering your own strengths, your own opportunities of growth, and applying those when it comes down to individuals, using that same perspective with them. And again, due diligence. What am I doing to ensure this individual is set up for success? There's a rationality there and a balance that needs to be struck, like overextending or not extending enough. It's could both be detractors to that process. So finding that line between that fair line where like I've done enough to show you the ropes and show you how to be successful, while maintaining professionalism and integrity is as I say, as I always tell everybody, I think it's quintessential. It's a never it's a job, it's a type of ideology that is never ending. You're always working on that. I hope that makes sense.
It does. And you bring another question to mind because there is a line absolutely between I'm going to coach you and support you and give you the resources you need to go off and work on what it is that you are going to need to be successful, investing that time and that energy. The person has to make their own improvements though, or they have to do the work. It's not always about, you need to improve, but we all have to improve. I think to your earlier point as well, we want to keep learning and growing. And there's that balance I find of, okay, when have I done enough as a leader? And I maybe give the caveat that maybe we are never done giving enough, but when when have I given you the tools you need to then go off and do what you need to do. And it can be kind of challenging to figure that out because everybody is different too. So, long kind of lead up to a shorter question of how do you know when you have set that person up for success and they have the tools that they need to become that person and to take on that challenge?
So at least from my let's take a look at that from the HR perspective as an HR leader. When I have managers that ask me how do I manage their guys, their girls, or their their employees in general, the first thing I ask is what are your measurable goals? What is the point of having this employee? And I'm talking post like requisitions and developing plans, budgets, and talking about like the process of guiding people. So once I have a manager who clearly defines the goals of that individual, and it has a clear idea what the mission is. I keep using the word mission. Mission is a military thing. I apologize. I don't relate everything to a mission like that, but I just find it to be a very easy word to use to show this perspective. But once a leader has a clear idea where they want their employees to be, they should have a plan of action that can be quantified. They should, in theory. As such, if you know what the path should be for an individual, then you should already know. I mean, through experience and through development, through school and whatnot, you should have an idea of what to give these employees to be able to succeed. I completely agree. It's a 50-50 approach. There's a due diligence from employees or from individuals to want to pursue leadership and training and things of that nature. But that's what talent pools are for. That's why we have to recruit and do interviews and look at qualifications so that we can do our due diligence to be able to make an informed decision as to who we're hiring and someone, someone that we at least at face value acknowledge as someone that could potentially meet the standards that we want them to meet.
That's a great way of putting it, and you summarize that so succinctly. And it also makes me think about our strategic human resources class that we took for school and how much it really opened my eyes to the structure and the systems that human resource leaders can and ought to have in place for their team and for the company. And I've never actually um, in previous roles had that experience coming from a nonprofit world where there aren't always HR departments or teams or someone put in charge of HR. And it wasn't until more recently that I've either been involved in that or experienced that and the benefit of a really strong HR department. Sometimes I also feel like there's a stigma around HR, a negative stigma, like they're only out for protecting the company and not the person. Then you've already demonstrated how much you care about people, Luis, and how much you want them to succeed. So, do you feel like there are, when you think about HR, do you want people to know anything in particular about what that role is, what that means in the nonprofit world or in the for-profit world, and just what you would kind of summarize HR to be for people?
I think the quintessential aspect of HR it's the biggest aspect that we have the biggest influence in our organizations is to be the voice of the company, both in accountability and also in I guess the good and the bad, if you will. A good HR individual, a good HR leader understands that they're not there for the company nor for the employees. They're a mediator. They hold both sides accountable. I've had leaders in the past. I'm not going to mention names, but I'll give you examples. I've had leaders in the past who have tried to manipulate the exempt and not exempt policies to try and make employees work overtime without having to deal with paying them. It happens very often where they start like questioning, well, what are the three parameters? And then you're like, no, this is not really like, you can't do that. Having an HR leader that is willing to step up and be like, no, sir, this is not the right thing is essential. Like we have to think about the bigger picture of things. A company, an organization is meant to be a body that works together for the benefit of all. So once you start crumbling those aspects, everyone pays, everyone from the top to the bottom. The top, a little bit less people think because, they get paid more, whatever the case may be. Those are just subjective ideas, whatever the case may be. But ultimately, HR individuals need to lead with integrity and be the example for their leaders, for their for their presidents, for the CEOs, whatever the case may be. They need to be outstanding individuals who care about the mission vision, but also care about the people in general. So yes, we are, in my opinion, we are mediators. We walk that line of having to hold people accountable for doing things that can potentially affect others. Meanwhile, rewarding them for being successful at not only supplementing the organization, but I don't know, exemplifying like the values of the company or doing a job that is a well done job, while at the same time having to find strategies and ways to get buy-in from leadership so that they don't commit mistakes that can potentially affect employees.
I think that's a great word, mediator. I love that. And I love your mindset towards that. You mentioned mission and you apologized for mentioning it earlier too. I want to highlight A, don't apologize because B, it is about mission, whether it's a strategic, initiative type of mission or we are aligning people towards the mission and vision of the company. So the fact that you bring that up tells me that you are really good at doing that and you have that top of mind for your company. It can be challenging sometimes for any leader to help teams or help individuals realign or understand mission. So, how do you, as an HR leader or any type of leader, how do you help people understand what we're aligning towards and get a good grasp of it enough so that they can feel empowered to do their job and at the same time receive the guidance that they need too?
So for the guidance aspect, it's just working with training your leaders to be good leaders. The development of employees, it takes really like, and I can't stress this enough. It requires engagement and due diligence. Our job is not to simply fill a spot to just, okay, so I just got a problem. I'm hoping this guy solves it, or this guy or girl, whatever the case may be. It's to bring people who are hungry to learn, to grow, for people that are talented, that have that skills that you see that you're like, hey, this individual can be a great asset to our organization, and help them develop those skills within whatever tools you have available at the time. Development doesn't require necessarily like, oh, we have a program to send people to college. Leaders are the tip of the spear when it comes down to development, to being engaged with their employees, learning to recognize, for example, like honest mistakes versus mistakes on purpose and things like that. And using honest mistakes as a tool for your guys and gals. I was going to say troops. I'm telling you. Uh, it's just a military thing. But using those moments to be able to be engaged with them and help them, and obviously from an HR perspective, I tell everybody, including employees, every single type of communication, document it. Everything you do, everything you communicate, especially when it matters or it may matter in the future, you must document it. But nevertheless, that's just a little on the side point. But yeah, being involved with your managers and helping them grow is quintessential for that process. Furthermore, working with your leadership to ensure that the culture that they're pushing, because for example, the CEOs and presidents are typically mission vision leaders. They're the ones that the face of the company, the ones that go out and meet people, the ones that go around shaking hands, do the videos. They need to ensure that from the top, they're showcasing what their mission vision is. That type of like marketing, if you will, or exposure, it's contagious for some employees. A good example is, in my opinion, a good example was John Legere during the T-Mobile, I don't know, T-Mobile and maybe a couple of years ago. I don't know what he really did. All I know is that he had a cooking show, and he would go around being goofy and charismatic, and it worked. It was a contagious feeling. It was something that he passed on, and got the privilege of working for T-Mobile for a little while, and I can tell you, people saw that and they bought into it. They loved it. They wanted to be part of that. They would go to the shows or the events that he would do, and they loved the guy. It starts at the top. That drive to want to be part of an organization starts at the top and it goes all the way to the bottom. Ensuring that your employees have the ability to be able to be part of processes, to go outside the scope of just their job. And for example, I'm working on this project currently where I want to take the training that we have for the organization. Just I want to keep the federal compliance and that kinds of stuff, the important ones, kind of standard. But like for other trainings, like work related, for example, for the departments, I wanted to make them in house. I wanted to get employees to get involved and do videos and be part of that. I think empowering people to be part of the processes and give their 2 cents and be just part of projects that you may be working on kind of gives them that feeling of like I'm valued here and they appreciate me, not just because of the job they're looking me to do, but also as an individual. I think all those things combined, and there's more to it. I'm just being very generalistic, but there's more to it. But I think all those elements combined can help an organization pass on to employees that feeling, that sense of like I want to be here and I want to be part of this culture.
That's great. There is so much more to it, and that's why I say that taking the course and diving in and understanding how much an HR leader can support the team, and hearing you talk about what you're doing and what you are planning to be doing and helping them, the idea of empowering your team too, it's really important, and it should not be lost on people or leaders the need to have a really strong HR team and someone who can put their focus and their effort on team development, because otherwise, to your point, they're going to be either fragmented, or the rest of the leadership is not going to have the time and effort to invest in the team members the way that you do. So I want to highlight that and pull that out, because that's why I feel like, we probably think about HR in a negative way, and I want people to re-envision what HR can be and what it means. So I'm glad you're able to give us that perspective. At the same time too, while you're helping folks with their roadblocks or their challenges or just helping them grow in general, at the same time, HR can have its own challenges as well.
Yeah.
So, I don't wanna assume what they are. What are some HR challenges that you see right now?
So I guess I would start with the stigma. I believe the stigma is fair. I think it's a perception thing for the most part. And I think from the perspective of employees and people that have been on the I don't want to say wrong side, but I want to say on like the not so positive side of with the things we have to deal with. Terminations or like ADAs, for example. ADAs are a big one. I can see why some HR individuals or some people would see HR as like, oh, the big bad wolves or whatever they call us. I don't know. I've heard some names before, but I don't wanna say them here. Um, yes, I can see why. I will give you an example. This is the thing that it's difficult for a good HR individual to like not have to deal with those stigmas because at some point we have to confront someone about something. A good example is with ADAs. I've had managers who don't understand the ADA process and they believe immediately when an employee tells them, and this is just a very generalistic example. An employee claims, hey, I injured my back or I hurt my leg or whatever the case may be. They immediately go into the negative aspects of like, oh no, this person is just making an excuse to try and work remote or something like that. When they don't realize that the ADA establishes very specific guidelines that require us to like keep communication, documentation, like really be thorough with this individual because they are protected. So us having to be stuck in the middle of that and being like trying to level with the managers while I'm leveling with the employees, whether it goes left or right, we're not winning. We're gonna be bad to someone.
Yeah.
Does that make sense? Like, like we're just stuck in that. Like, okay, so your ADA was approved. Oh, this HR guy doesn't. He and now I gotta deal with this. I don't even know what to give this employee. I told him I didn't want the job remote. or the other employee on the other side, the employee is like, "Whoa, it's a very." I'm saying that I'm trying to be funny about it, but it's the dilemma that we're stuck with. It's the process that we. It's always gonna make us for someone we're gonna look like the evil bad guys. I can't stress it enough. HR individuals cannot take those processes personal. It's not an attack. It's not an attack towards them as individuals, and they need to be able to document everything. So when the time comes, they're like, "Hey, this is the reason why. This is why we did this."
Yeah.
In a legal manner, not going around explaining themselves to the public, not going around on social media and like, oh well, no, 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 to the people that matter. It's unfortunate. It's just part of the job. Everyone that has to deal with accountability is going to go through this. Every job, every leader, every position, you're gonna have fans. You're gonna have people that are not so much of a fan. It's just part of being a leader. It is, and to add to that perspective as well, a lot of people think that a lot of people and that I've worked with, especially younger people, they think that the leaders are just these people, this old mentalities or stigma that they just sit behind a desk smoking a cigar, feet on the desk, like they just bark orders. Being a leader is not an easy job. It just isn't. And if being a leader is easy to you, maybe you need to, like, not to you, but to any individual, maybe you need to reevaluate your position because being a leader is a tough, tough job. You have to deal with it's not deal, I think that's the wrong word, but you have to deal with the problems of like the people in general. And people make every single system in a company. So that means everyone while still trying to constantly find new ways and maybe tools or ideologies or perspectives to like implement new strategies to continue moving on. So yeah, that's my take on that.
It's a really
As you
valid.
can see, I've thought about this before many, many times, and
Yeah.
I've had this conversation before.
Well, your point, it's a really valid point, and it resonates too. I think of it like, you have to engage with everybody, and you, as a leader, maybe you're not necessarily the person's direct supervisor, or maybe you are a coach to them in other ways, but there's a level of engagement for each person that you
Yes,
are
ma'am.
leading, and it can be draining for anyone. One of my other episodes was on introverted leaders, and I'm an introvert, believe it or not.
Really?
Yeah,
You don't
yeah.
seem like it.
I think it's going off on a tangent. I think we develop the skills that we need to be able to be present and talk. And I do love to share, and I love to tell stories. So there's an element of that, but it's our the default is not necessarily getting energy from being around other people as an introvert. And so if you're a leader and you're engaging with people and you're coaching them, I certainly can feel, that level of exhaustion creep in. Or, to your other point that you were making, you're not out to be anyone's friend, right? And we're human. We want people like us, but you have to go into any kind of leadership role knowing that not everybody's going to agree or like your decision. And you made the point about having integrity too, and having that moral compass, I feel is incredibly important as well. So you explain it beautifully, and I think it's really important for people to hear an HR leader's side of things, because you're putting yourself in the shoes of everybody and trying to understand everybody's side of things, while at the same time finding the common ground and what's appropriate and what's not appropriate. So I feel all of that is really relevant. And at the same time, too, while you have challenges, I'm sure there's a lot of newer, I know we were joking about trends earlier before we hit record, but we'll call them best practices because best practices last. What are some best practices for an HR leader, someone who is maybe struggling to figure out the role or wants to get into HR and be that leader? What would those be that you would share with them?
For someone, I'm sorry, for someone that wants to join HR or do HR as a profession, I would ask them to really, really think about it. They really stop and consider, is this really what I want to do? It's not an easy job. I can tell you right now that, and I don't mean this, oh, look at me, I'm doing this. it's not. I tell everybody that if I would have known how difficult this was going to be, I would have chosen to. I would have just been IT at the time. I would have just asked the military to train me in something other than leading people. Being a leader is difficult. Being in the position of having to hold people accountable is super difficult. I have days where I come home and I'm completely exhausted. Um, I've been holding emotions inside. I'm dealing with people who I know that, you know, decisions that we make, we have to make them for the better of the entire company, the organization as a whole. Uh, so, and you want to see people succeed. I do. I truly do want to see people succeed. I don't take any. I've never, not once, ever taken any sort of like pleasure or any sort of like, I don't know, I guess pleasure is the word, and like having to like terminate an employee, for example. But you hold that in because it's not, it's scary, it's emotional, it's a process. And you know, you while you're going through the process, you try to stay objective and you try to like, you know, like not showcase those feelings, but you bring them with you home.
Yeah.
It's a lot of it's a burden that you have to carry as a leader. That applies to any position of leadership, I believe. Joining HR is not easy. Being a leader, pursuing leadership jobs is never going to be easy. So going to school, learning, there's been people before us who have done the legwork and put it on a book so that we can learn what they did, so that we can move on and have at least a basis, so that we, I guess, our learning curve is not as steep as a normal person would be. I had a Lieutenant Colonel Regner once told me, yeah, you can learn how to do heart surgery without going to school, but how many people are you going to kill before you get it right? Why don't you go learn, and then, you know, like at least now you know a little bit more, you're probably going to kill less people, right? Because someone took the time to train you, because someone else did it before you. So go to school, learn. Certifications are great. I think college is much better. Getting involved with other students, getting different perspectives, build a network of leaders. Every time I grew up in a MySpace era, like it wasn't. I mean, the internet was there, but it wasn't as big as it is today. So we got LinkedIn. We got different ways of staying connected. Reach out to individuals. I do it all the time. I've been doing HR for about 15 years. That's including my time in the military, the little HR aspects that we had in there. But still to this day, I reach out to Lieutenant Colonel Regner. I'm like, sir, like he currently he's the CEO of a couple of companies in New England. And I reached out to him, sir, have you dealt with this? And what was your thoughts? Well, how do you go about solving an issue of this nature? Pursuing different perspectives, building a network of people who are like-minded, who care about people. And lastly, in order to deal with the heavy burden of like dealing with people's like basically lives and well-being and having to make tough decisions, try your very best to stay integral and let your decision making be based on like informed decisions rather than just like subjective thoughts or emotions.
Mm.
The only way I get through a day where I had a bad if I had a bad day, like a termination or something like that, it's me telling myself, I did my due diligence and I tried and I did it for the right reasons. This employee became sort of a liability to the company. That's what we're looking for. And it's unfortunate. I don't want to see anyone fail, but that's the only way I can move forward. So building those skills and working on yourself and constantly telling yourself, am I doing this for the right reasons? And keeping yourself in check, due diligence, self-awareness, education, and constant, not just not as mentioned before, not being stagnant. Like this will never stop. You have to continuously look for education,
Yeah.
building a network, and having leaders that you trust that can help you get through problems are quintessential for like a good HR leader if you're starting from scratch.
So beautifully said.
So in general, I forgot to mention this on the prior question. And I guess this is based on the integrity and honesty as like the compass of guidance when it comes down to decision making. The first thing I needed to do in my current job, the first thing I did when I walked into the office was ask my boss, "What kind of leader do you want me to be? Like, do you want me to be the buddy buddy, like we butting elbows and, you know, or do you want me to be an HR guy who takes care of the foundation and tells you this is wrong, sir, we can't do this, while holding our employees to the same level of accountability and how, you know, just being a proper HR leader." That was the immediate peace of mind moment for me because my boss immediately told me, no, I want you to be an honest and integral driven HR. So I guess have those conversations with your leaders would as the basis for starting to like build your like foundation for like peace and being able to like, at least I know I'm being backed up if I'm doing the right thing. As you go through the process, as you going through like, your day to day, find times to take time for yourself. Like I travel a lot. I try to like go out on runs with my dogs or go to the dog park. Like you have to disconnect. You have to find ways to like take care of yourself. These jobs, leadership, the pressure, it can be mentally draining. It can be the pressure itself can. I've had leaders. I mean, I've had friends that just had panic attacks at work because it builds up and it's I've seen it happen. It's very scary. I think it's important for us to be self-aware and find those like I need this moment to like relax, calm down. Even throughout conversations, it happens that this is just people dynamics. Like if a conversation starts escalating into a more negative confrontational basis, we need to be aware and not engage that, kind of back off and like de-escalate or move away and come back and try again. But we're naturally tempted because challenge invites challenge. It's a very human thing. That's why we have sports. It's why we have like, like all sorts of like, challenging things. So we have to, it's our due diligence to pay attention to that and be like, no, you know what? I need to back off and take myself away from this. So yeah, that would be, in my opinion, I guess the beginning of how to take care of yourself and kind of like not let the pressures bog you down or take you to a mental spot that is not going to be, I guess, productive or healthy.
That's really great advice. It makes me think about how easy it is for anyone to jump to conclusions, especially maybe if you're in a remote setting too and you can't see people in their workspace or know what's going on. And when we jump to conclusions, then we make these assumptions about what people are thinking or what they're doing, and we don't fully understand the situation, or you do get caught up in conflict and you need to de-escalate, but it is our kind of natural tendency to go in
To
and
lean
want
into
to
it.
defend or yeah, whatever your default is, and how important it is to pause and kind of check in with yourself too, I would imagine. Um,
That's it. That's it.
yeah, yeah. So I feel like that's really great advice because if we don't have that, I feel like we talk about self-awareness a lot with all of my guests, but it's so kinda have to have and maybe even more important for an HR leader, you have to have that self-awareness to assess how you're feeling in the moment and the situation. Because I've certainly been in situations where you have to de-escalate and say, "This is probably a good time to pause. Let's come back to this," or, "This conversation isn't conducive for any kind of solution or collaboration. Let's revisit and document that." To your point too, make sure you
Yes.
document that.
It happens to all of us. It happens to, we're human. It doesn't matter how much experience or education, we're human. That's why constantly looking for like development is important. Our perspectives, our thoughts change with time without us even noticing. Being self-aware, especially in today's world where like everyone is so informed. Maybe 20, 30 years ago, employees didn't really know what the poster that says know your rights actually meant.
Yeah.
Or why is the insurance on that poster? Or why is like the name of like they didn't even, I'm sure nobody noticed those posters till maybe like 10, 20 years ago. They're like, why is this here? In the break room. Um, Now employees are informed. There's lawyers online that give them advice, that tell them about their rights, who explain what EEO means. EEO is a super easy way of like, filing a grievance at work when you're in regards to your protected classes or a discrimination of sorts. Employees didn't know. I didn't know. Like as I'm going through my undergrad, especially right after the military, I knew they existed. I knew there were processes for that. I didn't realize it was that easy. I didn't understand that it was, oh, you can just go and I can do it on lunch if I wanted to. Employees today are more informed. They're more understanding of like their protections that they have. And they're gonna demand, they're gonna ask to be like, these are my rights. I want them to be respected. Uh, and as such, we need to do our due diligence, not only to keep up with their development, but also to ensure that we do we do our processes the right way. So Yes, I forgot what the question was, but
What?
I guess that was, that was part,
What?
as part of like today's world. I think individuals like HR individuals need to stay afloat. They need to remember that employees are not, they know more, they know better. So they're aware of what's right and wrong.
It's such a good thing too, but I'm thinking back to how much I didn't know when I was coming out of college and an employee, and you mentioning signs and posters make me think of the OSHA poster that would sit in the kitchen of my place of employment, and I would stare at it and never really think about it, and I wish that I had the understanding and the knowledge then, but that's why we need to stay curious and we need to get the knowledge and improvement for ourselves, for our team, so that we can all grow and be better and create better work environments for everyone. So I'm glad you addressed that because I totally see, social media is a powerful tool and can
Absolutely.
be really positively impactful in the right hands. And there are so many wonderful people who bring awareness to the rights of an employee and just what a good work environment can be. So, if you were to sum up, Luis, what is a really healthy, wonderful work culture and environment? What are some of the aspects and characteristics that you would use to describe that?
So I would hope that, in my opinion, I think that a good working, a good culture, um, is one that is transparent and open. It's one, I know these are common words that we use, and they sound really pretty in theory. In practice, is way harder than just speaking about it. So I want to acknowledge that. I know that I'm going to sound very generic in this answer, but I do think that transparency and due diligence are quintessential factors for any organization, and they start from the top. In my opinion, I think a lot of the issues that we have, especially with employment, is because people, one way or the other, I mean, like leaders or managers or even employees at the bottom, they try to find ways to create shortcuts. They try to find ways of like avoiding certain processes because they just don't find them, I don't know, appropriate or necessary. It's the old, I remember watching this episode a long time ago when I was in the military. And it was a mechanic, like a young out of school mechanic who was using all these books and all this like, well, in order to fix this, I must use 7/16 and this and following every single step. And then it would cut to this gentleman, this older, like 80-year-old man in the middle of like a dirt field, like a dirt runway, just kicking an engine to see if it'll start working or hitting it with a wrench, if I remember correctly. I'm not saying this is not specific to the age difference. I meant more like some people are reluctant, some people think that their way is better, and are not willing to listen to others. So I think that's the biggest issue. But leadership creates that leadership establishes what's acceptable and unacceptable. They have to do their due diligence to quantify why it's acceptable and why it's not. It can't just be a more of a sort of like just do as we say. It
Mhm.
has to be do as we do. So as long as and I mean that perspective in the aspects of like as long as it's abiding by the law, by the regulations, and by the standards of the organization. So I think that's paramount in today's world. Organizations, what I like to see in an organization is leadership that abides by the rules, regardless of their opinions, of their thoughts, regardless of their backgrounds. If the employee handbook or whatever the case may be, a law states this, they lead by example. Because I've seen the opposite effect as well in my experience. I've seen leaders that they were from they go off and they leave at noon and they're leaders. They get to they have a certain amount of freedom for their job as long as their tasks are done. But then when an employee tries to do something even remotely close to that, they act up like, no, you can't. We never sign off this job as remote. And I'm like, sir, like, excuse me, but like this is an admin job. Like it really doesn't need to be unless you can quantify it and put it on paper as into why this employee needs to be in office, then maybe a conversation needs to be had here. As you see, that's a mediator and me coming in and intervening. So I'm lucky as of right now, the organization that I'm in, it was the first thing I noticed, and I was very happy that I got to walk in and see that. I think finding your spot too is very important. Not every organization is gonna be like it's. I think he posted something on LinkedIn regarding horses and zebras. Like you're in the wrong crowd. You sometimes have to find your crowd. My crowd is veterans. I love working with veterans. It's always going to be a thing for me until the day I die. So finding this group of people with this vision, mission, a leader who is so invested in ensuring that everything is done with honesty and integrity was paramount to me. I just walked in and I was so happy to be part of this group of people. Even though the job it can be intense at times, but I'm happy to be there. So yeah, I guess those are some of the factors I would consider. And and what's the question again?
No,
I'm
no,
sorry.
I was gonna say your face lights up when you talk about the work that you're doing and the passion that you have for it, Luis, and I can feel that even though we're not in the same room together, there's an energy there. And so you're what you are speaking to, you are exempling and demonstrating for us, is making sure that you are in a place where you can grow and develop and as a leader help grow and develop other people. And I wanted to highlight it was very smart of you to ask your leader what kind of leader do they want you to be? I would love it if everyone asked their boss that or had an opportunity to ask whomever is they're reporting to what they need from that person because that way you do have that kind of reassurance you were saying earlier of knowing that no matter what I'm doing my job that I've been asked to do and making the impact that's needed to align with that mission and that vision and the future for the organization. So I hear that from you, Luis, and I just really appreciate you spending your time and sharing all this wonderful insight into HR because I feel like, at least from my perspective, you can be the unsung heroes or the folks that are behind the scenes and working so hard and so diligently for the health of the whole company. And I want to make sure that people have that different perspective of what a really great HR leader can and should be. And you are definitely one of them. So thank you so much for sharing all of your wonderful insight. I hope that our audiences are able to connect with you too. Is there a place where you would love them to reach out and get to know you a little bit better? Maybe pick your brain about some additional insights too?
Yes, my LinkedIn is a good way to reach out to me. I don't do a whole lot of. I'm very old school. I guess the LinkedIn through. Is it okay if I share the PTSD Foundation's website?
Oh, yeah, absolutely. We'll have the links down below too in all the captions. But yeah, people, if you're interested in learning a little bit more about what the foundation does and getting in touch with Luis, we'll have all those links. Yeah. Is there anything particular you want people to know or to see when they visit the site?
Yes. So if people are interested or they know a veteran who might need help, a lot of us veterans come back from overseas with mental issues and things like that sometimes are very difficult to deal with on our own, though that's what we're here for. The PTSD Foundation is here to help those veterans that need that support, that need that care. So if you know a veteran that needs help, or I don't know, have a family member who's a veteran, who can speak to somebody like one of our counselors, or maybe they need help with their disability or applications, whatever the case may be, we're here to help. So please share. I don't know, share, like, I don't know. Well, I don't know what the young people say, but please share with those guys and gals who might need that help. We're here to help. It's a great organization. We manage what it's known as Camp Hope here in Houston, Texas. So please share with anybody that may be interested in knowing about us a little bit.
Absolutely. And thank you, Luis, for this time together, for all of your wonderful wisdom. And thank you for your service, too. It means so much. All of the work that you've done for our country and for the people that you are helping, not just in the organization, but outside, too. All of our wonderful vets. So thank you for all that wonderful service. Congrats on graduating, too. Maybe it's a little too premature since we're recording, but I'll say it anyway.
Yeah, still got to deal with the capstone, so we don't know yet, but yeah, we'll see.
I have strong belief and confidence in us, but congrats again. I
You
know
too.
your
You too.
future, you've got a lot more bright achievement ahead. So I'm excited to follow you on your journey. And thank you to our audience for sharing your time with us as well. We'll catch you on the next episode of Bad Bosses, Great Leaders.